Hello everybody, welcome back to WhizDum Wednesdays. I'm Sir Derpy Creeper, and this is a weekly podcast where I basically talk about things in life that you may not know about or things in life that you may have a better choice of making decisions on. So hopefully this will make a whiz out of you making wise decisions and to steam them up to make them even better. So I basically want to start off with this awesome new video saying thank you again for the computer. Like literally, thank you again for the PC. Thank you for everything that you have done. Pretty much anybody who's listened to these, who has pretty much supported me throughout my streams, everything, just thank you. Because last week, I recorded my WhizDum Wednesday on a PC and things went by so much faster. I was able to put out a highlights video last week as well. Like literally, that's awesome. It made me happy. I was like, dude, I'm doing double work, which it's awesome. And it makes me extremely happy. I got my UPS last week, I think, and it was really awesome as well. It's like a surge protector thing. My dad got that for me. So I just want to say I'm thankful for all of you who've really just helped me make this PC stuff. I'm going to give a little bit of shout outs to everybody. I want to say shout out to Tune and Dixie. They got me the desk. Yeah, they were really awesome. Now, here's the thing, by the way, for everyone else who's getting shout outs. If I don't remember what you got me, don't hurt me, all right? I just know you helped out in some way, all right? I want to say big shout out to Viper, to Kebab, to Spicy Juan. Those three have really just helped me out, like computer-wise, picking out the right parts. Kebab helped me stay up when I was 10 hours building the freaking thing, so I appreciate that a lot. I spent way too much time building that thing, but I also want to say I appreciate Unicorn Zero. Really helped me out with a lot of, like, where he really propelled me forward with this PC, and I'm thankful for it. I want to say big shout out to Kyoto. Please don't hurt me. I'm just gonna call her Kyo because I don't know how to pronounce her last name or her full name, but Kyo pretty much provided me for the gaming chair I have for my setup, so I give a big shout out to that. Give big shout out to Thar Wudu for giving me freaking bits galore. I loved that. It gave me a lot of choices for, I think I used it for my monitor. Let's just say Thar gave me the monitor. And a big shout out to Eureka. Big shout out to Rich. Rich is my top donator in chat. Not donator. What am I talking about? Top donator in time. All right, top donator in time. All right. Eureka also gave me some subs and stuff, and I used that to pretty much propel forward towards my PC. So I'm very thankful for that as well. I'm very thankful for my mom and my dad and my brothers as well. They've really much helped me with the PC as well. And most importantly, I want to give the biggest shout out of all to my homie God. Because without God, I wouldn't have been able to have the friends that I have, to be able to have the people to help provide me with what it was, have a great community, have, this PC now, and it makes me happy. So thank you, God, most of all, because without you, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I love you, man. I love you all. I don't necessarily know if I remember anybody else. Please don't hurt me if I don't remember you. It's just that those are the main people that I remember. If you want to, you can check out a video that I had made about my PC. It's on my YouTube channel, Sir Derpy Creeper 52, if you want to put that at the end of the URL. But you can do you can just look up Sir Derpy Creeper and you'll find it on there. But anyways, I want to say also I'm going to be working on a logo, so please, if any of you have any ideas for a WhizDum Wednesday logo, please pass them on my way. I know I figured out one last week, which I thought was really cool, is having, I think, one of the icons being a brain with steam coming out of it. I really like that because, I feel like a heart and a mind are kind of intertwined with wisdom in a way. So I'm hoping that could be a kind of a thing I'm pushing for with WhizDum Wednesday, because as you can tell, for those of you who are watching in a video format like Twitch or YouTube, at the top you can see it's just lightning bolts for WhizDum Wednesday. So I need to get that changed to something that's like a lot cooler, more dynamic, creative. I want that. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. I would love to know. Also, a recap from last week. So last week, I pretty much came back from a 2-week hiatus, I guess you could say, because I was building my PC. And so I basically wanted to come over with one that was called Whim. Now, looking back at it, I didn't focus on trust too much on it, so I might focus more on it depending on how it was perceived. I'm not sure it was perceived well or not. It really depends, but I basically talked about getting into things on a whim, kind of like going in there without really knowing what you're doing. It's like kind of like you just skip the warnings. You don't even get warnings at that point because you whimmed yourself into it. It's about trust. It's about relationships, about loyalty. Loyalty is a big thing I talk about in that. Like, what is loyalty not? and I got it from a book called Character Matters by Mark Rutland. It was really awesome. Go give it a listen if you can. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it for the most part, and it was really cool to kind of like express loyalty, because I learned more about loyalty over the last week, and I thought, man, that is crazy, and it's super cool. So anyway, let's get into this next segment. I want to ask if you follow your heart. You do pretty much what your heart does. You like, all right, your heart feels something, you follow it. That's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. I want to basically talk about your heart is actually a very precious thing. All right, your mind and heart are kind of intertwined in a way, but they're like I mentioned in. I feel like I mentioned this in Wyden. Your heart and your mind are your basic like main motivators for your perspective, I would say. Your heart's for your feelings, and your mind is for your eyes, I would say. Your perspective, the way you look at things. And so I want to kind of base this whole entire segment off of one scripture from the Bible. And even if you're a Christian or not a Christian, I feel like this applies to anybody. It's Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And I believe that. And that's why I decided we're going to talk about ward. And ward, I'll go into detail on that as well. Ward is to kind of, now there's different things, all right? We're not talking about a mental ward, all right? So even though some of you may want to be in a mental ward, we're not talking about a mental ward, so you're good. But I want to say that ward is also a verb. And so if you look at the verb version of ward, I looked at it on Google. Google's awesome. It means to protect or to, I think, see or to guard or protect, basically. That's the way I see it anyway. When I saw protect, I was like, all right, that's guard. So basically it's like warding off things that are pretty infectious to your heart. And so that's basically what I'm going to talk about today. I want to say that your mind, for example, we're going to talk about different subjects. I'm going to say your mind, your actions, and what do you call it? The battles your heart are always in, I will say, because that's the thing we talk about. And warding off evil things, basically, and to basically guard your heart. So the first thing I want to talk about, your mind. So since I feel like your mind and your heart have a direct link, all right? They're both kind of barriers towards each other. So it really depends. For the most part, I do feel like your heart kind of trumps your mind in a big advance, because of the fact that I feel like, especially if you're someone who follows their heart, your mind isn't really going to affect you a whole lot. But there's some cases where it depends on what you see. So it's in the same case of widening your perspective, like I mentioned in Widen, is that depending on what your perspective is on life could ultimately be what goes into your heart. So if you're always seeing the bad in everything, you're probably going to have a lot of bad in your heart. Now, you probably won't realize that at the start. I believe this is what happens to me, is that sometimes I've got my heart in a good, great mood, but then I slowly listen to things and I look at things that really ultimately kind of just take it down slowly, and then I'm off on the deep end again. And so then your heart may be in a well. And so when you're inside this well, you're like, oh man, which is also an understandable thing. All right, I get it. People fall into wells sometimes. It's like I mentioned in Wells, by the way. If you haven't seen that, it's a really good segment. Basically is that if we don't watch ourselves, we're going to fall into these traps. It's kind of the same way as like if you don't guard your heart's going to swish and move around, and it's going to get beat up. Or it's going to get infected. It's something, I feel like your heart is almost like an open wound in a way, depending on if you really have an open heart or not. But still, it's an open wound in a way. You can salt it, or you can help heal it up some. It depends. You can keep it open. I recommend keeping your heart open, but don't put things inside of it that's going to infect it. It's the same thing as an open wound. You don't want to leave an open wound outside all the time and have the possible chance of getting dirt inside of it. That's going to get it infected. You don't want these kinds of things inside your heart. I feel like your mind is also with a direct connection to it. You can feel so much inside your mind, and eventually it goes down inside your heart. I feel like that's kind of like what I'm getting, if you get what I mean. I feel like that's like a perspective that I've never really thought about until I started talking about this, so it's really cool. That's basically what I think. So I feel like your mind is a good thing to work on if you want your heart in the right place, because everything you do, I agree, flows from your heart. And now we're going to talk about your actions, actually. So I will say, depending on how you act shows how your heart is, and that's just how I am. Like, I can tell if somebody's really happy or not, because the way they act, you can tell if someone is truly happy or if they're just pretending to be. Sometimes people swap. Your actions show how your heart is. So if you have a bad heart condition, no, not like a bad heart condition as in like medical problems, but as in like where your heart is at in a certain state. Like I mentioned, if your heart's in a well, your actions are going to be very different from if your heart's in a happy and great place. You may see things in a negative light, and you may have negative actions. For me, in an example, I have had a problem, at least within the last few days actually, where I had just not taken things to God. And, as a Christian, I believe you should take things to God. Even if you're not a Christian, I feel like you should just give it a try. But listen, there's no pressure. Don't have to if you don't want to. I understand. I feel like, I started saying, all right, I'm going to do decisions on my own terms. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't make decisions on your own terms like that. That's not smart, all right? Especially when it comes to God, all right? Because you're not God. And so I was thinking, all right, well, on my own terms, I'm going to do what I want. And I was exhausted, all right? I'm going to be real. I was exhausted. I didn't get enough rest. So, and I feel like that's a thing too, is that if you are exhausted and tired, I feel like you're more prone to making a lot of bad decisions than good ones. And so I know this is kind of a little off topic here, but get some rest, seriously. I don't know who needs that, but you need to rest sometimes. You can't just keep going 100% constantly every single day. You need a day where you can just lay back and just like recharge. That's why we have weekends, all right? We can recharge and we can do a little work on it if we want to, but give yourself some rest, because if you overcharge yourself or overexhaust yourself, what's going to happen is you're going to be less productive because you're overcharged and you're exhausted. So don't be exhausted like that. Like, it's understandable to be exhausted, but don't go so far. That's why some employers sometimes give vacation time to their employees, or at least their best employees. Not just because you're a good employee doesn't mean you should overcharge yourself constantly just to get some vacation time. But that's a good way to, that's a good way to get the employee back in a right mental state. Is that sometimes they give vacation to their best employees so that they can recharge themselves. And I think, that's a good example. If you need to rest, recharge, get a break sometimes. That's why you have vacation time sometimes when you have a job as well. But anyway, back on subject. I've had these moments where I slowly listen to things and look at things, and it slowly gets into my heart. You have the choice to see what you want to see. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't let that make you be closed-minded, though, because you still need to have an open mindset. But you also have the things to look. You have the ability to look at the things you want to look at and steer away from the things you don't want to see. And so if you're constantly looking at things that are going to put your heart in a bad place, stop looking at them. I had to stop looking at social media. I literally had to. When a lot of riots and protests and a lot of just people dying came out, it may have been true, but it was overblown up the wazoo, and then everybody was just trying to stir up a panic and stuff. And honestly, it hurt my heart. I was sitting there I got anxiety. I was like, bro, what is this, the end times? I had to stop looking at Twitter so much. I had to stop looking at Facebook so much. And honestly, it helped me a lot. I don't look at Twitter a whole lot. And if I notice my heart getting into a rut of I can't believe these people are saying these kinds of things, I have to back myself out and stop looking at it. Because if I do, and I keep looking into it, what's going to happen is I'm going to fall into a pit. And it's going to make my heart harder. And it's going to make me make wrong decisions when it comes on the way. So if your heart's in a bad place, you're going to make bad decisions most likely. decisions you don't even make. And by the way, I just want to let you know, and we're going to go into like the battle part of it. Your heart is always in a battle, especially if you're putting your heart in the right place or trying to, because you're on a constant battle of, all right, am I making the right decision? Am I not? Because if you're trying to make the right decisions, that's awesome. But eventually, sometimes you're going to get in a situation where your heart's going to get hard. Sometimes bad stuff gets inside your heart. It's your job to ward them off, like evil things. You know what I mean? If you ward off evil, it won't get into your heart. And I feel like a lot of negativity and evil can come flying at your heart. And no matter what it is, usually righteous anger for me is the thing I struggle with, where I get so mad when somebody does the wrong thing towards somebody else. And honestly, it's a thing of where, like, you know, I love people, and the fact that I love people makes me not like people who don't love people, you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that doesn't mean anybody who does the wrong decision doesn't love people. But I'm just saying, in the aspect of that, it makes me angry. And so when I see stuff like that, it starts to cloud my vision, it clouds my mind, it clouds my heart. And then eventually it goes off into the deep end. I'm going to share a little bit of what I've heard from Craig Groeschel from Life Church, actually. He said, you know, anger in and of itself is not a sin. It's what you do in your anger that makes you a sin. All right, wait, no, it doesn't make you a sin, sorry. It's what you do in the anger that may make it a sin. So whatever you do in the act of anger that is sinful is because of the fact that your anger led you there. But being angry isn't a sin. So me being righteously angry wasn't really much of a sin, but me going over there, in my opinion, it doesn't have to necessarily be a sin, but it's definitely bad in the heart. And, you know, when I got righteously angry, it was like, oh, I'm going to make a Twitter post about it. That's where that action being produced from my anger, that's where it's bad. And so you have to watch out. Listen, you can be angry. There's nothing wrong with being angry. But here's the thing, though, is that don't let your anger make you commit actions that you aren't supposed to be making, you know? You can't let that be a burden to you. And I'm going to share a story I shared with a friend the other day. And I feel like this is a thing that, you know, kind of helps your heart. What you do and the actions you choose to do go inside your heart. So maybe you had a friend that you just lost, like you have an ex-friend now, basically, and it was a bad situation. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I've had that before. Think about 2 years ago, I've lost a friend that I thought was a cool person. Turns out that person was not the person I thought they were. And I decided to constantly check their social media, constantly. And the fact that action alone infects my heart. It really does. And I know, you know, you may want to look at it and say, oh, well, this is just me just trying to see and improve who I am. Well, I get it in that extent. All right. And I want to say that, listen, all right, I was mad at this person for 2 entire months, all right, and I would not let something go. So I held this onto my heart, and then I kept checking social media and stuff like that. I recommend, one, after a little while, it's okay to be upset, all right? After a little bit, though, you need to let go. And so the more you hold on to this feeling into your heart, the more your actions are going to be affected. And so you have to watch out with what you put in your heart. Are you going to let the anger of looking at the past mistakes that you have made in your past with the friend that you had made back then affect who you are now? Because if you keep going back and trying to find if they're talking about you, if they're looking towards you, you are ultimately going to put yourself into a rut in your heart. And so your heart's going to make you make bad decisions in the future because you're still holding on to it. And I'm not like saying that, oh, snap, you know, you got to get over it in a day, because I know you're not going to get over it in a day. Listen, when bad things happen to us, all right, especially when they're like people we care about or people that we love or people we thought we could trust, and then they turn around and they turn out to be this completely different person than we thought they were. It's hard to get over that, especially after a day or two. I get it, all right? It took me 2 months to get over one person. Like, I mean, that's a long time, too. Like, I sat there with anger in my heart. If you live in anger in your heart, you're not going to make the best decisions in your life because you're not guarding your heart. You have to guard your heart from these kinds of situations. And a good way to start guarding your heart is to know what you might do in the future and prevent yourself from doing these situations. Like checking somebody's social media after you're not friends anymore. I mean, I understand if you want to make sure that you're not being talked about or something for a little bit, but if you constantly keep going back and forth to check it, then that's the problem of you might be obsessed. You might keep being worried about if they're saying something about you, and that's bad stuff you're already putting into your heart. You have to basically ward off these evils that kind of come to your heart, all right? And you may not even have, like, maybe you're in a bad heart state as it is right now. And, I get it, depending on your situation or how life has just been to you, you may be in a bad situation in your heart and not realize it. So, it's hard to ward off a heart that's been hardened for so long. And I get it. Listen, if your heart's been hard for so long, it's hard to ward that off. But you have the ability to choose what goes into your heart. And I do believe your mind and your perspective do play a big part in that too. A good thing is that your heart can block your mind and your eyes, for example, from seeing things. Your heart can pretty much be a barrier to your mind, but your mind is a barrier to your heart. And both, depending on how strong the other one is to each other, it could bust a barrier down. Now, if you can somehow master both, heck yeah, homie, I agree. I'm working on my mind and my eyes. That's what I think I need to work on the most. But for the most thing is that that's true, though. If you're probably going to have to widen your perspective on things or change your perspective on things to unlock that barrier between the both. But in the good way, not the bad way. By good way and not bad way, I mean the good way is having your heart and mind kind of balanced in a way that they don't infect each other. But also in the bad way is what I mean is like if your feelings trump your mind and your way of thinking, or if your thoughts end up trumping your heart and having your heart in a bad place. That's what the bad and the good is of breaking those barriers between the heart and the mind. You have to guard yourself from making these kinds of mistakes in your life, because here's the thing. Just like the Proverbs 4:23 says, you need to, above all else, guard your heart, because everything you do flows from it. It flows from it. People can tell your heart when you do things. Why do you think a lot of influencers or these social media people who are really popular end up like getting so much hate for the things that they do, even though they're probably doing good things? It's because they probably have the wrong heart mindset. Oh, that sounds weird. Wrong heart mindset. I don't know about that. The heart set. Basically, it's a heart condition. Depending on the condition of your heart, the way your heart is, makes people know, hey, this person's making the right decision. This person knows what they're doing. It depends on it. So if you're constantly going back and looking at somebody who has just wronged you constantly, and you keep going back into it, other people may look at that and say, this person can't let something go and become a better person out of it. Show other people, hey, this is the right way of living. Guard your heart. And for Christians out here, hey, listen, homies, listen. I get it, all right? We kind of sometimes think that, oh, man, God's talking to us. It's our own, we're on our own here, all right? We make the best decisions. We don't make the best decisions. Pray about it. Listen, if you're not in a constant prayer or a constant talking with God, your heart's going to falter at some point. You need to keep that up. Like it's keeping up a conversation with someone who's really positive in your life. Every time you talk to this positive person, you light up. You're like, yo, this is awesome. Your heart feels good. But when you stop talking to that positive person for a while and keep going into your own little ruts and dark places, guess what? Your heart's going to become a rut in a dark place. You have to keep up that conversation. Keep it going, because here's the thing, you have to keep your heart up in that higher place of positivity, because if you don't, you're going to fall. It's like a balanced meter you have to keep going up and down through, You have to keep your heart in a right place. That's why you need to guard it. When bad decisions arise, hold back and wait a minute. Think before you do some things as well. Think before you do them. You have the power to choose what you can do. You have the power to choose what goes inside your heart. Are you going to guard your heart from things that will really make you make bad decisions? I'd like to do a recap of this segment because honestly, I just feel like this one can be just short and simple. And I feel like this one was pretty much all I had to say for it. And first of all, I would like to say as a recap, remember the Proverbs verse, please, because I feel like even if you're not a Christian, or even if you are a Christian, I feel like it doesn't matter, because I feel like we all fall into this category of we need to guard our hearts, because if we don't, what we do ultimately flows through it. So our just bad decision making skills could really just destroy us, because our heart's been in a bad place and we allowed our hearts to stay in that bad place rather than protecting our own heart from it. I know this is out of place again. I always said I was going to do a recap, but I just thought of something. It's almost the same thing of your atmosphere. You need to affect your atmosphere, but you need to guard your heart from your atmosphere. Because if you don't guard your heart from the atmosphere that you're in, your atmosphere will infect your heart. Your mind has a direct connection with your heart, basically. If you allow your mind and your perspective to be constantly dark, it'll flow right into your heart. And then your heart will be dark. Don't allow your mind to cloud your heart. And it's hard. Listen, if you got a clouded mind and a clouded heart, it's really hard. But your heart and your mind are your biggest things that pretty much dictate where you go. And so I believe that if you can fix your mind, you can also fix your heart. Overthinking so much can also lead into your heart, by the way, as well. Not just overthinking, but worrying, anxiety, all this negative atmosphere, negative outlooks, they go right into your heart. Watch out for that. Listen, you have the choice of seeing the things that you want to see, doing the things that you want to do. Your actions flow through what your heart's like. Is your heart in a bad place? That's probably why you keep making these mistakes that you don't know why you're making. I've made a lot of mistakes when my heart's in the wrong place. I feel like I'm making the right decision, and I'm not. Your heart's always in this battle of good and evil, especially when it's in the good part. When your heart's in a good place, yeah, you betcha evil's going to come in and try and fight you. It's up to you to guard your heart from this kind of evil that comes in. And evil can be any small things as well. Just because it's a little bit of weight doesn't mean the weight's not there. Small things can come into your heart. It's your job to either snuff it out or to protect from it. If you're a Christian, even if you're not, I recommend this, but there's no pressure. Pray to God. Ask Him to snuff out the evil inside your heart, to protect you from it. That's a great way. I mean, listen, dude, our homie God, he's freaking awesome, all right? He'll snap a finger and it'll be gone. Sometimes He won't snap it and be gone. You know why? Because maybe you still have a lesson to learn in it. Yeah. Sometimes you may have a lesson you still have to learn in it. Doesn't mean He's ignoring you. He's trying to help you. It probably makes Him sad that you're going through what you're going through, but still. You need to learn the lesson in it. Ward off the negative that comes around your heart. Listen, there's a lot of negativity in this world. If you choose to let your heart be opened into it and let a bunch of negativity into it, it's going to infect it. Just like an open wound. Listen, treat your heart like an open wound. Don't let any dirt get inside of it. Make sure you have the right kind of, peroxide. Just, don't stab peroxide in your heart, but, metaphorically, don't let your wound be infected. Treat your heart like it's an open wound. It is a thing that's damageable, but a great thing to have. It's almost like it's made of glass. You got to keep that thing polished. You got to keep it up. You got to make sure it's not breaking. Because let's be honest, sometimes we get in our hearts where it starts to crack, it starts to break, it starts to get hardened, and we don't know what to do. That's why you have to stop the stuff from getting inside of it before it gets in there. And if it's in that case, guess what? You're going to have to go through the purification process, all right? That's either you becoming a better person and, realizing what you're doing is wrong. Get some rest, by the way. Or talk to God. Seriously. I mean, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself and your heart. Widen your perspective as well. Listen, your perspective and your mind are a big motivator probably to go into your heart. Your heart can probably still be fine for a couple of days, but after your mind is stuck in a mindset for a good few days, guess what? Your heart's going to be on the right next path to it. Your heart will do the same thing. Your mind and heart are very intertwined. Guard your heart if you want to make better decisions in your life. And I want to I'm going to leave you off with this reminder of Proverbs again. Proverbs 4:23. Remember, 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs is a great great book, and I need to read more of it because it has a lot of wisdom inside of it. But guard your heart. Ward off the evils. Ward them off. All right, listen. Ward them off and guard your heart. Protect it. Your heart is a valuable thing. Treat it like it's a museum piece, like it's a thing put on display so everyone can see it, but make sure no one can break into the glass and destroy it. Ward off the evils. I hope you all enjoyed that segment right there. That was actually really cool. All right, so I'm going to be honest with you, homies. I came with up most of that on the spot. It came flowing through me out of my heart. I thought that was really cool. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Really, I really feel like some people just, you're letting things into your heart that you shouldn't let into your heart. Treat your heart like it's valuable. Anyway, I've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Go check me out. They're all at Sir Derpy Creeper. I don't know about Facebook. I don't think it's at, but still. We got Twitter, we got Spotify, and SoundCloud as well. I have not posted more on Spotify or SoundCloud yet. I have to in about once I get paid, because I need to spend, I think, about $13 for the premium so I can upload as much as I want to, because of the fact that I have so many WhizDum Wednesdays that I don't think Spotify has an unlimited amount, so I have to pay extra for it to get it up on there. But I will try to get the rest on Spotify. I know it's been a bit, so I do apologize for it, but I really want you guys to be able to listen to it on Spotify. But right now, everything up to Worth, Window, and Worry are all three on Spotify. If you ever want to listen to them again on Spotify, if you're busy or doing anything like that, understandable. But I want those two platforms to be thrown out there as well, just in case any of you would like to hear it on there. Also, I have YouTube, where I post all my current WhizDum Wednesdays. My YouTube is my current most updated WhizDum Wednesdays until I can get my Spotify and SoundCloud put up at the right time. Right now, this will be the most updated one so far. And my Twitch is also something to do, so come check out me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/SirDerpyCreeper. For YouTube, by the way, it's youtube.com/c/SirDerpyCreeper52. Because the original I was trying to keep, but I wasn't able to keep it, so I put 52 instead. But on Twitch, we talk about things after the video, so I think that's really cool. We get some good conversation going, and I think that's a great thing. Last week we had a little bit of conversation going, but this week is going to be super cool, hopefully, so that'll be really cool. But big shout outs to my Twitch chat. They've been really awesome, and Twitch has been growing for me, and I'm pretty happy for it. So go check out my Twitch channel if you haven't. It's free. My content's all free. If you want my emotes, though, you gotta pay me money. Ka-ching, ka-ching. I'm messing with you. It's all free to watch. Listen, it's all free to watch. But I want to say thank you all so much for watching. Seriously, I appreciate it. Remember, guard your heart above all else, because everything you do flows from it. Remember that. That's a big thing you want to remember. Treat it like it's a beautiful masterpiece, like an open wound. All right? Don't let it get infected. Put it on display in the museum, but don't let people bust through it, Ward off the evils. Until next WhizDum Wednesday, I'm Sir Derpy Creeper, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. See ya.